welcome to Spider-Verse Minute, the tri-weekly podcast where we watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 1 minute at a time. I'm Sean Slater.
And I'm his sister Caroline.
And I'm not their sibling, Thomas. Hi guys, how's it going?
Hey!
This week we have our very first guest, only 55 minutes in. We're finally getting things down. Thank you for joining us today, Thomas.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while. I love this movie, and I've been dying to talk about it.
That's I'm pretty sure how Sean felt until I saw the movie. He's like, I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. I forced my friends to see it. I'm like, no, we're going to see it because we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so speaking of dying to talk about it, what's some of your background with comics and Spider-Man and the movie?
So I grew up, Spider-Man was always one of my favorite superheroes. Every Sunday I was dying to see his comic in the newspaper, and then the TV series came on and I fell in love with him even more. Minute by Minute podcasting I got into a while ago, and I did the Never Ending Minute where we talked about the Never Ending Story 1 minute at a time. And so this is kind of the merging of the two of those things. So
merge into this new world.
Yes. Spider-Man and Minute by Minute podcasting.
The perfect combination.
Yeah. Name a more iconic duo.
Like,
Right?
do it. You can't.
You as the teacher. Me as the
So, Caroline, what did you end up titling this minute?
Now I'm kind of wishing I titled it Teacher and Students, but I didn't. But I named this minute is Spider-Woman to the Rescue. Because, girl power.
Girl power.
She definitely does come to their rescue.
Very much so. Oh.
She's so much more able than either of them.
Yeah.
I remember when I first saw this part in theaters, I might have made an audible noise. I can't remember that part, but I remember I was like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Every time my daughter sees this, she's like, Daddy, look, it's Spider-Gwen.
When I first saw the trailers for this movie too, I was like, okay, yeah, it's a cool Spider-Man movie. Like, it looks really cool. The art style, like, it looks unique. When she showed up, I was like, okay, I'm sold. I guess I gotta go see this now.
I was a little more sold when I saw Miles. I'm like, oh yeah, Miles, I like him. And I'm like, there's a female one? Because this was like before I was fully into Spider-Gwen. And they're like, oh, Sean was like, yeah, here are the comics. I'm like, reading all of that.
Yes, my daughter has become one of the hugest Spider-Gwen fans you can imagine now.
Can you blame her?
Like her backpack, her lunchbox, all that Spider-Gwen, that's all she takes to school with her.
I'm jealous of your daughter. I want that stuff.
She's become a Spider-Gwen cosplayer, and oh, I love it.
Yeah,
I love it too now.
Yeah.
I also just love seeing kids cosplaying. That's a weakness of mine.
Yeah.
Oh. We should talk about the minute now.
Sure.
Yeah. Before one of the first things I liked was and I'm the teacher and you're the...
Me as the teacher who can still do it, and you as the student who can do it, but just not as well.
And I like props to Peter for recognizing Miles' talent and just being like, you can do this. It's not as good as me, but you got this.
You can do this.
Save his ego a little bit,
Yeah.
Yeah, that line still makes me crack up. There are so many funny lines in this movie, but that line especially still makes me really laugh. Because it's then followed up by, like, him trying to get, like, Miles to compliment him. Like, anything to say to me.
There's a tone to his voice here where he sounds like Jason Lee from, like, Mallrats Jason Lee.
Yeah. I don't
know what he does with his voice there, but he sounds just like it.
Yeah. This is a very, like, technical way of looking at it, but I feel like he almost goes from, like, speaking in a higher register, like more in the nasal area, to almost dropping to a bit of a lower chest area.
Yeah.
Because I tend to do that a lot. Like, when I'm podcasting, I tend to speak more in my nasal register, because it's a little clearer, better understood. But when I talk, I tend to talk very low in my chest. I can't do the switch now because I'm podcasting. It just doesn't do it for some reason. Let me see if I can do it. It's like... I tend to talk down here when I'm very relaxed with friends or just laid back. And it's a different tone, so I think that's kind of what he's doing.
And they're so casual as they're zipping along here, and I like how they just both manage to somehow stay the exact same, so that they can hold the computer at the same time.
Yeah,
and
the tree line up here is beautiful.
Right, it's absolutely perfect for them
It's fantastic.
somehow.
I wonder, like, because it looks like it's a hefty desktop. I wonder if that's actually helping them, like, stay in sync, as they're just using the weight as kind of a pendulum for themselves.
Oh, actually, I bet it is.
And
Yeah.
helping
To some
that
extent, anyway.
stay in sync with each other. Because they're also, like, I could see it being, I was going to say a bit trickier because they're different, like, sizes. Like, Miles is significantly shorter than Peter.
Miles is significantly lighter than Peter.
Yeah.
Especially with his newfound gut.
Yeah.
I never realized how much of a running joke that was until we started doing these minutes. I'm like, oh wow, they bring up, like, his shape a lot.
I find that I quote this movie quite a bit now.
It does have plenty of quotable
So many quotable
moments,
things.
like so many good moments where you can just like slide them into everyday conversation, and it doesn't, like, they're not super obvious that you're quoting somebody.
Right.
I love it. I love it so much.
And when Peter asks, "Is there something you want to say to me?" but then like glitches, I wish he wouldn't have glitched, just to see what Miles would have said back to him.
Yeah.
Be like, "Yeah, you're not too bad yourself," or something.
I feel like Miles would have come up with something pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not a hobo Spider-Man.
Just confuse him.
Yeah.
You're not so janky as I thought.
And then it glitches. And
I do want to point out, because I love the way I wrote this. I wrote glitch equals dramatic does not equal comedic.
yeah.
Because we've talked about how they didn't just create one glitch animation and then like just put that everywhere. So it's allowed them to be more flexible with like the comedic timing and the comedy of the glitch.
Uh-huh.
This is one of those moments where I feel like they didn't go fully comedic and more dramatic with it.
Yeah. Especially because it was such a, like, quick glitch.
It was so
But
But this one feels like it hurts. Like, it doesn't look funny. It looks painful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like then you almost realize at that moment, we're like, oh crap, they're being chased, and this just put them down. Like this
Right.
halted
Yeah.
them for a second.
And one neat thing is when they cut back to Miles and Peter, like, just hanging on the branch, there's a quick point in there as well where, like, Peter glitches again, but they don't do the, like, color. They just do the, like, move his body around kind of thing.
Right.
And it's only on screen for another, like, half a second again, if that. But it really shows how much of a, like, detriment this glitch was this time.
I didn't catch that. Wow.
They had to be so high up.
Yeah,
Oh,
like,
yeah. Oh, that must have hurt to hit that branch.
Yeah, they fall into the branch, and then when they fall from the branch, they fall a really long way.
yeah,
And Gwen still has time to save them.
And look cool while doing it, but we'll get to that.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, these are really, like, this will kind of tie into the alt scene again at the end of this minute. Surprise, spoiler alert, there's an alt scene.
John.
But in either last week or the week before's minutes, we talked about how to get here they got on a plane. And in the alt scene coming up, they pop out on a beach. And it feels like they might have had this be in the California at some point.
Oh.
And these were supposed to be closer to, like, redwoods height-wise. Right. And then they just were like, oh, we're keeping it in New York, and, like, didn't really adjust the heights because they feel like very, very tall trees.
Yeah.
With not a lot of, like, stuff on them for normal trees you would see in the area.
Right.
Where they are.
Yeah, that would explain a lot.
Yeah, they fall a lot.
They do a lot
still
of
don't hit the
falling.
ground.
I want to know who manufactured this cord connection.
Yes,
That-
it is. I want
computer.
that. Can all of my connections be that strong?
Right?
Wow.
'Cause from falling, they just grab the power cord and somehow it does not come right out of the computer.
Yeah.
Mine comes out on accident and I don't even do anything.
Yeah. You look at it funny and it falls out. You're like, oh, okay. And as Doc Ock approaches them, we get the first hints of Gwen here.
Actually, before we get to that, one of the things I love is like right when the computer starts falling, the music cuts out. And
Right.
it's just silence. And I'm like, that's amazing. And you just hear Liv, she grabs the computer and just sees it, and that's all you hear, and it's just this like death silence that I love.
Yeah. They do that like dropping of the music and just letting the sort of surrounding ambient sound play a couple times, and every time they do it, it's done really well.
And in this case, it's all preparation for what's about to happen, and it sets it up so well.
Yeah.
Such a good job, because it really does kind of get your heart racing of like, oh crap.
And it really sets apart her music, like her coming in. It just makes it all that more powerful.
Yeah, they bring it in like, what's that called? They ramp it in. They crescendo it in.
They fade it in.
Yeah, fade it in.
It really is like this small fade into it, and it's so well done.
And it really feels like music that her band would play. Like, I imagine this is just like her listening to music, and it's just her listening to like music that her band recorded, and she's just like,
Oh yeah,
this
like
is
she's totally got headphones in or something jamming.
Yeah.
this as she
This is like a
rocks
demo
this.
of a song they're working on.
Yeah.
I love that. I do love the use of the guitar. Of all of the songs, but especially that beginning sound of the guitar. Yeah. I'm like, oh. Especially because like that's my style of music. Like that's what I really listen to and thrive on. So I'm like, I'm already in love.
I love these positions that she leaves the two Spider Boys in.
They're so like
So
cat's
uncomfortable.
cradle-ish.
Yeah.
Miles is like hanging by his wrist.
I don't even know what to call Peter's position, but it's great.
Oh,
I also love that they don't fully reveal her at first. Like, the first, like,
right.
image we see of her is just this giant blur.
Yeah, it's a blur, and then you catch her darting across Doc Ock's goggles.
I love that.
And it's such a cool, like, if, going in blind, you're, like, not really knowing what to expect. And then suddenly it's like, oh, it's her. Like, if you know nothing about it, it's a neat surprise, neat reveal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I love the first, like, full view we see of her is just falling upside down in this beautiful, like, T. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's awesome.
And it's great because it foreshadows that shot that they do with Miles later when he's confident enough in his power to not to spoil too much, but when he comes into his own, he does something very similar where he's just comfortable falling.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I never even thought of that.
And the one gripe I do have with her falling down and, like, launching off again, and it's a small one, but she comes, like, vertically straight down,
Is it what
lands,
have to
and
do
then,
with her
like,
wrists?
no,
Oh.
it's like she launches herself back up, but then, like, is suddenly coming horizontally at Doc Ock, and, like, it doesn't look like she launches herself in an arc. She probably jumped off of something or used her webs, but it was just
she
like
used
I was
that
watching
dancer body of hers and manipulate.
Oh no, what it is she, after she's falling, she twists her body and then webs a tree to change directions.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I like my idea, but she just randomly changes in midair, but
Yeah.
yours makes more sense. I've seen too many dancers. I know what they can do.
Right?
Yeah, it does a great job of just showing off her dancing, like, background, her ballet background,
Right.
and just, like, how fluid and smooth she flies through everything, and is just, like, how confident she is with being able to maneuver through the air.
The other thing I really love about not just showing her dance background, but I love how they show, like, her fighting style mixed in with it. And I just thought of this, but it reminds me very similar to how, like, remember Kim Possible?
Yes,
Of
I loved
course.
Impossible.
Yes.
One of the things I loved about her is that they never really gave her like any weird reason of like, oh, she's trained with all these fighters and that's why she's a good fighter. It's like, no, she's a cheerleader and she uses those skills to help her fight.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's awesome. And so I love when they do things like, here's something you wouldn't expect to help people fight. But when you think about it, no, it makes a lot of sense to why people
Definitely.
fight. And to go a little further, having been to school and acting and taking stage combat and dance, a lot of it does intersect of like how many fight moves are very similar to dance moves. And you're like, oh, the only difference is I don't point my foot and I hit someone with full force. Got it!
Or like how Dad would say, like, you know, playing football in college, one of the classes they had to take was ballet because those, a lot of it was just like...
Balance was a big one.
Yeah, balance and like building up core strength, but it even helped with maneuvering around on the field. And those skills translated even if you didn't necessarily immediately think of them as being transient skills.
So this move that she pulls on her is amazing. She does she webs both of her arms on one side, then the other two arms on the other side, and uses her trajectory to just wail on her face.
I love it so much.
And then that's not enough. She lets her spring back, come back on her own power, and hit her again.
Yeah. It's the double tap. She knows how to take people out. She always
Yes.
It's the old 1-2.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a good like combo that she does there. And then as the computer's falling again, she webs the computer before it hits the ground, which again, very skillful.
Gwen's just amazing, okay?
Yeah.
The funny thing is when it goes to her catching up to where the boys are,
Yeah.
she does the exact same arm move that they do when he was talking about
Yeah,
I'm the teacher and you're the student. She does it too in the exact same way.
Guess it's just a universal spider thing. Just like, this is
Yeah.
what you do. Guess it makes the most sense.
I love the way when she finally like walks up to them, the way she just like stands there, she just like poses and is like, "You're welcome." Like
She stands in a good first position and just stands there.
like she's waiting for them to sing praises for her. She's like, okay,
She's like, I'm here.
I'm ready. Yes.
Oh, and that reveal. When she
Yeah.
pulls the mask off. Oh,
The hair, I think, is like my favorite part of the reveal, weirdly.
yes.
It's such a cool, like, buzzed look. I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
So there's this cosplayer on Instagram, Bunny BII, and she does a Spider-Gwen, and she's got hair almost exactly like this. It's incredible. She looks just like Spider-Gwen.
That's the best
Yeah.
thing for a cosplayer. I love things like that.
Every time my daughter sees the cosplayer, she's like, "Will you send that to me?" And I always have to send it to her phone. She likes me to screenshot it and send it to her phone.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, I think like her costume is one of my favorite spider costumes and just kind of superhero costumes in general. I think the only other one that gets remotely close is Batgirl's Burnside outfit.
Yeah.
Where they both got that sort of, it feels kind of utilitarian, while also still looking pretty stylish.
Yeah, she's incredible. And just I've watched the special features for this many, many times.
Yeah.
And the stuff that they did to design her is incredible. Like the small gap in her tooth that just adds a little bit more character, and she's amazing.
I like weirdly appreciate just her freckles too.
Yes.
Like, I'm just like, I love that. I don't know why. I have no real. I think it's because when I was younger, especially in summer, I would get quite a few freckles on my face.
Yeah.
So it's just something small about that. I'm like, I love her freckles.
My only complaint about this version of her outfit versus like the comics one.
I think I know what it's
Yes.
gonna be.
Is that she uses ballet slippers here, or ballet shoes. Are they ballet slippers or shoes? Or
They
matter?
look like they're designed after point shoes.
These are point
Okay.
shoes.
They
Yeah.
look. They only, I think, they aren't like fully point shoes because they don't have the total flat end at the end. I mean, they might have.
Yeah.
Might be wrong. And, like, that's really the only difference. If they were real point shoes, she'd have a block of wood in there and make everything what she did not only more painful, but more impressive.
Yeah.
When I built my daughter's cosplay for this, I just bought regular dance shoes, and then I sewed in ribbons.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And painted it all blue so that she'd have ones that look just like this.
Yeah.
That's what she wanted.
Yeah. They're designed. It seems they're designed after the point shoes, which is the more traditional shoe that people think of when they think of ballet.
Yeah.
But there are soft ballet shoes. Like, that's mostly what I dance in and what a lot of people will dance in. Unless you're doing, like, a point show.
It feels like I guess, and they've grown on me. I've come to appreciate them more, but I feel like having Chucks just like they work better because they're not so soft. Like, you could step on something sharp and it wouldn't hurt as much.
I think they maybe wanted to delineate between Miles and his tennis shoe wearing and her having something like unique. Otherwise, yeah, I prefer the Chucks as well, but I think maybe that's why they wanted to get away from tennis shoes.
I do remember reading an article, a big reason that they decided to go with the ballet shoes was to do more of a more obvious hint to her dance background.
Yeah, and that's what grew on me, was like, it's because they incorporated like ballet movement and flow into her, fighting style a lot more. Like, okay, it makes more sense to have ballet shoes on.
Because I have danced in Chucks, and let me tell you, those things don't bend.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot dance in those.
I just hope Miles isn't too much of a sneakerhead where he's like, oh, I can't crease my shoes, and he's like trying to fight without getting creases in them. Because that would be very hard. Kicks. Yeah.
I don't know. Miles does a lot of falling. I don't think he's that worried about his Chucks.
He's like about to kick somebody and stops. He's like, oh wait. I can't scuff. Or kick someone and immediately goes down to clean them. Like, how could you?
That's what gets him to go into a full rage during a fight. You scuffed them.
Yeah. And I love when Miles is like, oh, Gwanda, I know you. But then Peter's like, oh, you know her? Very cool.
I love the way he says it. It's like, you know her. Very cool.
Yeah.
The thing that makes me laugh most about Miles, isn't he, saying, like, Gwanda, is that, like, he, like, whispers it, but really badly.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's like, no, it's me. She's like, Gwanda. I'm like, okay, first off, that gives you away.
Yeah. Right.
Second.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's like, are you trying to hide the fact that you're Miles? Like, clearly, like, what the heck, man?
I think once he realizes that she's a spider person too, he doesn't have to hide it, so he's just like, I'm just gonna go with it.
I feel like he was hesitant. He's like, wait, should I still hide that it's me?
Yeah. It's also probably just like a lot of shock as well. Like, he's just like, wait a second, I was not expecting that. Under that, you were the last person I expected to be here. One of the things that came up in the director's commentary was they were talking about, like, as they were swinging through and sort of this little fight scene, was how it took them a while to figure out, like, it's important to give them some breathing room and some small victories here and there, instead of just having, like, oh, they constantly lose, and, like, win at the end. But having this, like, oh, Miles is successfully swinging through the forest, and Peter gives him a good job, like, we can take a little bit of a breath. And then, Gwen comes in and saves him. Like, that gives them time to breathe and just have this nice, relaxing moment.
Yeah.
Relaxing, I say with quotes, as my heart was pounding with excitement when I watched it.
Right.
And the poses that Peter and Miles are in are definitely not relaxing at all.
I think those are the most relaxing poses ever. I don't know what you're doing. I feel like one of them's got to be getting a good stretch at least, right?
Yeah.
Probably Miles.
Probably Miles. Miles is getting a good stretch.
Yeah.
Miles looks like a marionette.
Yeah. Like, he shook it around a bit too much, and like, that's okay, man.
Now they're stuck like this.
The last note I have before talking about the alt scene as well is the smears they were using in here to, like, move around had a very, like, anime feel of just, like, having the character moving in the background, just, like, static lines kind of thing whooshing by.
You could see the anime influence there.
Yeah.
In these bits, they mentioned that, like, yeah, they definitely leaned a bit more into the anime for this intro than.
Part of me likes the
before.
picture that, like, she's Naruto running.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like, I don't know why, but it just gives me great joy.
Yeah.
We'll go storm Area 51 next.
Yeah.
She'll take it too.
Was there anything else either of you wanted to bring up before I jumped into the alt scene?
I think that's all I have for this.
That's really all that I had for this minute.
Sweet. So this one starts out, it happens at the very beginning of the minute. We get a bit of them swinging in, and then it cuts into the alt scene. And they continue swinging into the forest, and then shoot out of the forest, and like face plant onto a beach full of elephant seals. And so this is what I was saying, how like I think it was supposed to be in California before, in like redwoods maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Is because of the elephant seals, because at first it looks like just a bunch of rocks, and then like the seals bounce up and they're like, "Wah!" and like run along the beach a little bit, and then the bad guys catch up to them and like tell them to freeze. And this is when Gwen interrupts and saves them, and so she does the like takes away the guns away from the scientists, and locks them all up. And this is where she's like, "Hey guys," and Miles says her Gwanda, and then she jumps into the flashback. And this is kind of cheating a little bit, but it goes through the flashback like it normally does, and then it cuts out and cuts to them just like running, and Miles asks, how many spider people from how many dimensions should I expect to be here, which is technically in minute 57, but it's a very short thing, and both Gwen and Peter in unison say infinity. And I was like, whoa. And then it cuts to Kingpin on the balcony. So yeah, it's a nice little interlude. This one was like you could tell was cut very, very early, or a lot earlier than some of the other ones, because it was still like really, really rough sketches, and like there was no backgrounds done at all. It was just like, oh, they're running, and it's just like them on a white piece of paper with some lines, like spin lines drawn on it.
Yeah, I like this one better.
I definitely like this one better.
Yeah,
I like this. I think it would have been funny to have a beach just randomly. Just 'cause that seems very Looney Tunes of like with a random swing and then a face plant into the sand. But I don't know. I like this scene a lot. The scene they went with a lot better.
Yeah, that would have been a better place to introduce Spider-Ham.
That would have been the
definitely.
Perfect place if they decided to switch
like
those.
have him pop out.
You're like, hey, that's a terrible John Mulaney impression. I'm sorry.
Just talking with some of my friends here. They're not very chatty.
Are you boys all right?
Yeah.
Took her to your nosedive.
Okay, I like this better as a Spider-Ham introduction.
I've convinced you. Well, thank you all for listening. We will see you next time in minute 56. Got any plugs to plug?
Sure. I mentioned before that my foray into the Minute by Minute podcasting was Never Ending Minute. It's all finished up, so if you guys want to go check that out, you can. 94 minutes of goodness. We even got to interview Tammy Stronach, who played the childlike empress in the movie. So that was really exciting. But yeah, check it out.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.